right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is your place to talk sports with us at 412-575-2600. Bob Pompeani here in downtown. We have Andrew Fillipponi up at Foster Plaza, and he is at the PM team, 93.7 The Fan. And on a night where the Pirates only scored one run, none for Paul Skeens. After they scored 37 in the last 4 games, they still get a win. Andrew, but what does Paul Skeens have to do to get a win? 5 scoreless today. I know the pitch count was a little higher. Palante was terrific. He went into 7 with just 1 hit allowed. That was it. But somehow the Pirates got a run late. They won this game, and that's 5 in a row. So good news, even though it was not a decision night for Paul Skeens.
Yeah, Skeens' last 2 starts, there have not been a lot of length in them. The one in Milwaukee where he was actually outpitched by the Brewers rookie, The Miz, who looks very dominant, throws over 100 miles per hour, almost like a mini Skeens, although he's 6'7", so I wouldn't say that he's really a small guy or a tiny guy whatsoever. And then tonight, the pitch count was elevated, and the strikeouts weren't like at a high level, so it's not like he was getting out by way of strikeouts. The Cardinals were just being the pesky Cardinals that they are and fouling a lot of pitches off and long at bat. So he has not won a game, Bob, since May. He went the entire month of June. The Pirates had a winning record in June, and he was not the beneficiary of any clutch hitting or improved hitting. He went winless. 6 straight starts now with no decisions. So that's really the only downside that I see of this evening, because I thought it was fun to watch them kind of beat the Cardinals at their own game. The Cardinals for years would beat the Pirates. I always thought they had Albert Pujols and Matt Holliday, and they could hit the home run, no doubt. But their fundamentals always seem to be better than the Pirates. And I like that in this game. You saw Pham make a play in the outfield, and you saw that great play by Horwitz to throw the runner out at home, and the tag applied by Henry Davis. And so they've just been, when they were barely losing out on the division for those 3 years, Bob, I always felt like the Cardinals won more of these games. And even though there's so many games back in the division, it was nice to kind of rub their face in it tonight.
Yeah, again, they've been doing everything well. When you look at the last 5 games now, they've given up just 4 runs. The pitching has been outstanding, which makes you wonder what this would have been like had they moved on from Derek Shelton in the offseason, and had they brought in a bat or two, because this pitching has been solid all season long, not just starting, but largely the bullpen. Although I got to say tonight, David Bednar goes through high wire acts at times. He had a situation there, and he got bailed out by a nice throw by Spencer Horwitz to Henry Davis, who has been getting better and better defensively. That was a big play, and at first I thought the Cardinals were going to win that challenge. They did not, because Fermin came in, and his hand did get off the base a little bit, off home plate. And I guess that was the difference in that call. But they got out of it. He then struck out Donovan. He's 12 for 12 in save opportunities. Say that about Bednar. And he could be a guy at the trade deadline that teams might be interested in.
Well, teams are definitely going to be interested in him because he's gotten his groove back. And he's not an expensive pitcher. And so he's going to have people that flock to him and want to get him. It's a matter of how interested are the Pirates in making that trade. Greg Brown, I thought, made a very objective point today on my radio show. He said, the Pirates always find a way to find closers. And they've moved on from all-star closers, and they usually replace them with guys who are just as good and sometimes better. And so that should be on the mind of Ben Cherington. You have the best bullpen in baseball in June. To their credit, Santana's been outstanding when he's not trying to slap fans in the face. So, I would, and I look, when he's going great, people here love him, but when he isn't, he gets booed like everybody else. So it's not like David Bednar is like in Sidney Crosby rarefied air or something like that. So I wouldn't hesitate to trade him because they have so many holes, as you point out, in their lineup that if they were able to get a guy that projected as an everyday player, I would absolutely trade 2 years of a closer to get that guy, Bob.
Yeah, I think I would too. They need bats. Somehow they got to come up with them. They have some guys in the farm system, but I'm not sure how close they are. All right, Andrew, when we come back, we're going to widen this conversation. We still have the aftermath of what happened yesterday with the Steelers. TJ Watt, what's going to happen with him? The Penguins on free agent day number 1 go against what they normally did. They didn't bring many big names in. We'll talk about their rebuild and much more coming up. All you have to do is call us at 412-575-2600. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We want to hear from you. All right, welcome back. This is our Xfinity tweet of the night from Codify Baseball, Paul Skeens. All you have to do is look at this. It doesn't make sense. 18 starts with that ERA of 2.03 and only 4 wins. And again, it underscores the Pirates' biggest problem. They knew it going into the season. They did not much about it. And here they are. All right, I want to also talk about, first of all, I should say happy Bobby Bonilla Day to you, former Met. You're a Met fan. Another $1.2 million going his way. But he's not the only guy. There have been many guys in sports who've gotten big paydays. And it's not just him. Max Scherzer, I think, is still on the hook for some money coming from the Washington Nationals. $15 million for the next couple of years in one lump sum. That's not bad work for a guy who hasn't pitched for them in a while. And my favorite one, though, of all time, Andrew, was Rick DiPietro from the Islanders, who's still getting paid, I think, through the year 2029, even though it's $1.5 million a year. He got a sweetheart deal. He got hurt, never played, and boom, big money.
And the great late Bill Fralick had a similar deal with the Falcons that was negotiated by local agent Ralph Cindrich. I tip my cap to him on that deal, a deal that was negotiated in part because Cindrich threatened the Minnesota Vikings that Fralick would go pursue professional wrestling, Bob, instead of football. And Minnesota got scared, didn't draft him. Fralick ended up in Atlanta, but guess what? It didn't work out too badly for Minnesota because instead they picked Pitt's Chris Dolman, and he went on to have a Hall of Fame career. What a good player, an underrated player Chris Dolman was for his NFL career.
And Ralph Cindrich was one of the best agents during his time. There's no question about that. And I loved hanging out with him. He told some great stories over the years in his negotiations with various players. We have a lot to get into and open up the lines right now, and then we'll expand to the Penguins and also the Steelers and TJ Watt and what may be coming up. But first, let's get out to Beverly in Sewickley, who's first tonight on the hotline. Hey, Beverly.
Hi. What has gotten into this team? Hitting, fielding, runs, good pitching. Can this last? Please, can it?
Well, I mean, it's not going to last at this level when you get, you outscore 5 games in a row 38-4. But it goes to show you that with just a little bit of hitting, and they've come on, and I'll give this to Don Kelly. He's 25-24 as their manager, Andrew, and there is a definite difference to how they play. I think he's been good about handling bullpen. He's not gone one inning with everyone. He sometimes will let guys go 2-3 innings in relief, and I think that saves the bullpen arm. Also, he's good about moving the batting lineup around when need be. All things considered, I don't think there's much of a question that he should be back as manager next year, even though there may be a GM change. I'm not sure about how that's going to work out.
Yeah, I think he'll be back too. I think there's a night and day difference between him and Shelton. The game moved too fast for Shelton. I thought he made too many predetermined decisions. I thought he used Bednar in situations that, David wasn't exactly comfortable in. A lot of these closers like pitching with a lead, even if it's a small one, and Bednar wasn't used that way. Look at all the times Derek Shelton tried to force Colin Holderman into a game, Bob, in a critical situation, and the amount of times Holderman blew it for the Pirates. So I am impressed that Donnie Kelly has such an outstanding feel for his bullpen, having never managed before. When I talked to Jim Leland about this, the one thing he brought up was, hey, I love Donnie, but, he doesn't have any managerial experience in the minor leagues. So there might be some time necessary for him to really figure out how to use that bullpen and manage games in real time. And I think almost 25 games or almost 50 games in, he's done a very good job of that and looks to be a precocious manager as far as being able to pick things up quickly.
Yeah, and Donnie Kelly with his experience with Jim Leland, no surprise that Gene Lamont's in that dugout now as the guy who's on the bench giving Donnie some advice as he goes. Real quick, I want to talk about the Penguins. We didn't see much activity from them, and quite frankly, I expected not much activity. It confirms to me that they are in somewhat of a rebuild. There is a report that Anthony Mantha will be coming here, but he's 30. That would have been better a few years ago. He's been injured, but he has the potential to score 20. They have a lot of 30-year-olds. What's stuck out to you today for the first day of free agency and what they did other than trade Nedeljkovic, which I guess also means that Tristan Jarry will be in goal to start the season?
Well, I think they declared themselves a participant in the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes. I think it's what today did.
Yeah.
I honestly think that. I mean, I don't look, Sidney Crosby will be back, and he's outstanding, and he'll probably average a point per game next season because that's what he does. It'll be Evgeny Malkin's final year. And Chris Letang has had some health issues, and Erik Karlsson is a bad contract. So there really isn't much else. Rustin and Raquel, of course, too. I know there's been trade talks around both of those guys, but I think they'll end up keeping them to play with Sid. So I think they're going to be a team that, again, is very much in transition, but it's built that way on purpose. Right now, Bob, they are projected to have the fewest points of any team in the Eastern Conference. Mm-hmm. How about that?
Yeah, you don't expect to see that with a team still with Letang, Karlsson, Malkin, and Crosby, but they're aging, and this is what happens.
You mentioned it in your sportscast before we signed on. They've got 28 picks in the next 3 years. They're bragging about that, and they're excited about that because they're looking down the road. They're not trying to win right now anymore.
Yeah, that's going to make it tough on Crosby. We'll see, as this thing moves on, what that means, if anything at all. Let's go out to Mike in Wilkinsburg. Hello, Mike. Welcome to the Sports Call. Go ahead.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I'm a big fan of you guys. So I just want to get your thoughts on like the Jalen Ramsey and the trade with the Steelers. I think this is a great move for us. Moving off of Minka, I think we had him for his best years, and I think he hasn't really done much for us the past 2 years. And I think that like just getting Jonnu Smith and also Ramsey, a 3-time All-Pro cornerback, I think is better than having Minka in the backfield. And they're getting some heat from, like, nationally from Colin Cowherd and some other people. I just want to get your thoughts on it because I personally love the move.
I thought it was a good move for them, actually. I was stunned, actually, that it came down the way it came down. When I first heard Ramsey, I thought it was going to be for a draft pick, which is, probably what I would have preferred at the time. Then all of a sudden, Minka's name gets into this. And there has to be something involved with that. He did not have one of the splash plays that Mike Tomlin likes to talk about, Pony. One interception the last 2 years and one fumble recovery, I think. But Jonnu Smith is a big key to this trade for me. I like what he's capable of doing, and I think when you put him into that offense, he's going to have some opportunities over the middle of the field. At least I hope so. That's what they've been missing over the years.
Well, I had a chance to talk to Joe Rose today, who played with Dan Marino with the Dolphins, and he caught Dan's first touchdown pass, was his roommate, is the Dolphins color analyst on the radio, Bob. He's tremendous. And he said to me that Jonnu Smith is the best pass-catching tight end in the NFL.
Oh, that's
Better
a big statement
Kelsey,
considering who's out there. Yeah.
Right, and he said he was blown away by how good he was after the catch, and said he single-handedly won them games last year. So, that was a huge endorsement from a guy who, A, played the position in the NFL, and B, watched every one of his games last year. The Ramsey thing, the more and more I think about it, the more and more worried is the wrong word. But I do think it has the potential to blow up. He is now on his 4th team, and everyone says the same thing about him. He is extremely talented, and he does show it when he's healthy. But he also, I'm not going to say he's like George Pickens, but he is a very tough guy to manage.
Mm-hmm. That's why he's with 4 teams. Yeah.
Right. And so, hey, Mike Tomlin makes $20 million a year. He should be able to, if he's getting paid that kind of money, and they're paying Ramsey a lot, so they should be able to find common ground. But he is a guy who can kind of fly off the handle and do his own thing. When we're worried about Minkah Fitzpatrick doing his own thing last year, the communication issues. Apparently, that's why Ramsey and Vic Fangio didn't get along in Miami, Bob. And look at what Fangio's done.
Yeah. As
the Eagles defensive coordinator who won a Super Bowl this last year. So I like the trade, too. All I'm saying is that is something to keep an eye on. He's not a guy like Patrick Peterson, who I'm friends with, who is just, he'll do whatever it takes to win. I think Ramsey wants to win on his terms.
Yeah. And that could lead to a problem, there's no question, because he's going to move around out there, and we'll see how they utilize all those 3 guys they have. Real quick, let's go to Chuck in Uniontown before we take a break, and then Jerry in West Elizabeth will get to you. Hello, Chuck.
Hello, Bob. I know I'll make it quick for you because you're going to go break, but do you think the Pirates will win more games on the road in the second half of the season?
Yeah, they haven't done that very well throughout the course of the season. Hopefully that will be the case. They're going to need to do that. And again, I'm more interested in who develops right now and how they move forward with some of these younger guys that they have. I want to see consistency. I also am very interested in the trade deadline because I think it's going to be, now that these guys are actually making a case that maybe they have some hitters here who may be desired by other teams. And if that's the case, you got to act on that right now, I think, Andrew, because again, you're going to have an opportunity here to try to bring in some bats if they can do it. I'm not sure who comes to mind in that regard, but I think they have guys who've shown that they can maybe bring in a bat or two. I'm not sure what level bat, but a bat hopefully that can help them next year.
I think teams are going to try to steal Keller and just try to get the Pirates to dump the salary. And I'm hoping they don't, but I think that's what teams' mindset is. So, you know, I wonder how that's going to play out. Are the Pirates actually going to get somebody back for him if they trade him who they plug right into the lineup as a hitter? Because I think teams think they can get him by just taking the money off their hands, Bob.
Yeah, I think they would think that, absolutely. And Keller's been just like Skeens, a victim of non-support. We're going to take a break here, come back with more right here. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call on KDKA+. Ken Rice is in the anchor chair tonight, getting ready for KDK News at 11, Ken.
Hey, Bob, tonight a local community is making big changes, trying to keep its only outdoor pool open. Plus, which Steelers rival just got closer to having the first indoor stadium in the division. And Kristen Emery tracking a stretch of dry days ahead. Nice change there. All coming up right here at 11, Bob.
All right, Ken, thanks. Jerry in West Elizabeth, I promised. Go ahead, make it quick, though, please.
Hi, Bob. Hi, Andrew. Hey, the linebacker we got from Ohio State, I think his name's McDowell.
Jack Sawyer.
Will he be an inside or outside linebacker?
You're talking about Jack Sawyer, right? That's who he's talking about? Okay.
He's talking about from Ohio State, yeah. Then it's well, Malik Harrison they brought in from the Ravens who played at Ohio State. He's an inside linebacker.
Yeah. Real quick, what do you think about T.J. Watt? Where is this going to end?
I don't know, Bob. I mean, the Steelers keep surprising us. So I'm never going to say never now on things, right? I mean, how could you rule anything out at this point with the offseason they've had?
Yeah. All right, Pony, thanks for coming here as always. We'll see you again later in the week, and we'll see you on the PM team tomorrow at 2 p.m. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for joining us here. See you tomorrow night, 10:35, for another edition of the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Have a good night.